United Lutheran Seminary presents the Seminary Explores podcast, conversations on faith, art, people, politics, theology, life, and more, with voices from around the corner and around the globe.
Welcome to the Seminary Explorers. My name is Nelson Strobert, and today my guest is Gregory Christensen, who is the author of a new book entitled Gettysburg, Fast Facts for Kids and Families. Welcome to the Seminary Explorers.
Thank you, Nelson. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's good to have you here and good to be able to talk to the author face to face.
Definitely.
Right. My first question is, from where did you get the idea to develop this book?
Kind of an interesting story. I have one son, and when he was small, about 10 years old when we actually started making this book, but prior to that, just right before doing that, my dad and my son and myself were out on the battlefield, and we were in front of the monument for Albert Wolson, who is the oldest surviving Civil War veteran, or was the oldest surviving Civil War veteran of the Civil War. And there's a monument on the Gettysburg battlefield with him, or of him. Mm-hmm. And so we came upon that monument when we were looking around, and my father actually had escorted Albert Wolson in a parade back in his hometown of Duluth, Minnesota. So, and my father's still living. So, and there he is, this guy is in a monument form, and my son couldn't believe that my father had actually been person to person and escorted a person who fought in the Civil War, and there is my dad,
indeed,
in the flesh.
Oh, you know? My.
So that was a revelation.
Indeed.
For my son.
You're right. And that's new information I'm learning about my colleague. Indeed. And so, but then how did you develop an interest in the Civil War? Right. I know living in Gettysburg, you're surrounded by that memory, but for you personally?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because my parents' home where I grew up is 200 feet right off the state line of the left side of Pickett's Charge. So we're right on the battlefield. But when I was a child, all I knew how to do is build forts back there. And I saw a bunch of monuments. I had no idea, really. I just knew they were Civil War, didn't know anything about the battle.
Right.
And even up through college, I didn't know much about the Battle of Gettysburg. I knew some basic things. But I became an innkeeper in downtown Gettysburg. And a lot of the tourists that came into the inn would always ask me questions about the Battle of Gettysburg. And I would get stymied. So I started researching it so I could answer the patrons. And finally, I really started to get interested in it. And I started unraveling the layers of the onion, and I just got more and more into it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yes, certainly the activity of a researcher, you get more and more involved in what you're doing.
Yeah.
I noticed that, the book is designed for children.
Right.
Yeah, that's the focus.
Right.
But it seems to me that it also is an orientation for their parents.
For sure.
And I thought that was unique.
Yeah.
Was that part of your intention to do that?
That actually definitely was. You can only, for children, you can only go back as far as to give them the basic ideas of facts. You can't simplify it any more than just the basic facts. But the thing is, people come into the town, the tourists, or anyone who's interested in the battle, and the facts are just as relevant to them if they know nothing about the battle or know very little. So this second book, Fast Facts for Kids and Families, is really what I would kind of call Battle of Gettysburg 101, an introductory level to the Battle of Gettysburg. So it pertains to just about everyone. There's facts in there that just very interesting vignettes, human interest stories, and just basically introductory stuff.
Right. Yeah. And that was that was the focus of your first book.
The first book was the teenagers, civilians that were thrown into really desperate situations during the battle, and they had to become nurses and take care of things like amputated limbs and things from the surgeons, and just grown-up things that they had to do, and they did very well. And so we told the first book those stories.
Okay, and in a sense, this second volume, continues to shape or give the audience a view of what Gettysburg was like.
Definitely,
during that period.
Yeah, and an interesting thing what we have my son, who was 10 years old at the time, and my stepdaughter, who was 8. They're kind of commentators, and pictured in the book as they comment on the narrative. And they are really supposed to be in the time period of the battle happening. So they're making a commentary on the stories, or on the second book on the fast facts, as if they're watching the battle in the present tense.
Oh, okay, I see. So, when the reader looks at the table, at the beginning of the book,
right?
Is it chronological or thematic?
It's definitely chronological. It took to get all the information in, especially with the first book.
Yeah.
Especially with the first book, it was very hard because you had to line up the stories from the children and what was available as far as research and what they had given us written down, and the day on which these stories actually occurred. So chronologically, you had to line those things up.
Right.
So it would definitely be more chronological than thematic. In the second book, we're going day 1, day 2, day 3 of the battle. So it's definitely chronological, and then the facts apply to what day they happened on. So,
okay. Yeah. The reader's getting an actual commentary on the various days.
Exactly, and the commentary comes through the children themselves, who are pictured kind of like in a comic way, but it's real photographs, and they have little speech bubbles that come out, and they're in the present tense watching what the narrative is saying.
I think that's
so you are there type of situation.
Exactly. And you mentioned photographs, and there are a number of photographs throughout the book. Now, did you do all the photography or some of the photography, or how did that work?
I base outside of public domain, which was the historical photographs. I did all the photography. I'd been into photography, or have been, since I was 16. So this turned out a lot of my interest while I was started to research the Battle of Gettysburg prior to these books. I was bringing my camera out on the battlefield, and as each layer of the onion I unfolded, I just was taking pictures, and it was just wonderful,
Well, at this point, you probably have hundreds of
thousands.
Photographs. Thousands.
Yeah, so it was, but it was such a labor of love. I mean, making these books, especially the photographic aspect, and learning about the human element of these, the narrative of Gettysburg, was the most rewarding part, for sure.
Really good. Oh, thank you for sharing that. For me, as I went through the book, one of the unique features of this book is your reference to women.
Yes.
And the Civil War. And I think very often when we think, or it's my perception that very often when we think about the Civil War, we have these male images.
That's it, right?
And your focus, you're looking at women during the Civil War, I think is very important.
Yeah, it is. I noticed that too growing up. There was very little about civilians. So what we did in the first book of talk about the teenage civilians, many of which these teenagers were women. Teenagers like Tilly Pierce and Sadie Bushman, Liberty Hollinger, and the second book here concentrates a little bit on nurses that were women nurses.
Oh, okay.
That volunteered during the Battle of Gettysburg. And what happened is that it was the first time really in American history that women ended up taking on roles of the male. And so kind of the Civil War afforded that opportunity, although it was a very horrible situation.
Exactly.
They took part in these things, volunteered, and we ended up with people like Dorothy Dix and Clara Barton and all types of people in the field of medicine, and so women played just a very important part in the battle. There was even women that posed as men
Okay.
and got into the service and fought as men. They thought they were men. That's how dedicated they were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so-
Again, I think that's a unique piece
Yeah.
and something in terms of children
Yeah.
that would be very important for young girls.
Exactly.
To know that the participation cross genders.
Exactly.
And that to me was really good.
Exactly. And I just, like I said, I noticed just in my lifetime in Gettysburg, it's finally getting its due as far as names are being said and called out for women and all people of color, that these people were there just as much as anyone else, giving it what they had to give at the time.
Well, which brings me to my next question, is that the inclusion in the book of and voices of people of color, African Americans. Again, we see white soldiers.
Exactly.
We hear about their participation in in the battle, but we don't hear about very often people of color.
That's
and
right.
I think again, you picked that up.
Yeah, definitely.
How did that develop for you?
I initially came across Frederick Douglass, and I just came across it in my research, and it dawned on me. I thought first I ran across that there was actually people of color soldiers that were fighting for the South, which was crazy to me. But they were, I guess there was some, I don't know if they were forced by their slave masters, but they were there. There weren't any people of color that fought at the Battle of Gettysburg.
Right.
But what happened was 10% finally, before the end of the battle, the war, the Civil War, 10% of the entire army of the Union Army was people of color. And at first they were only paid about half of what the white person was paid, right? Doing the same job, and their rations for food were less. Right. But in 1863, around the time of Gettysburg, Congress passed a notion or a law that meant that they receive equal pay and, of course, equal food, equal rights to medicine,
right,
and things like that. But it was amazing. There was a great group that volunteered and had terrible losses like everybody else, but they actually 10% ended up, fighting.
Yeah, that was interesting. And when I was doing some work on my family, and I found out that a great uncle fought in the Civil War,
right,
that my family did not know about.
Right.
But going through the records through Ancestry, we found that. And also, when you mentioned pension, there was another relative who had a dispute over compensation, and so that record, they have copies of that encounter with the government. And again, I found interesting, and again, I had no idea.
I didn't either.
No
very
idea.
Interesting stuff.
Very much. As you look at this volume coming out, what do you anticipate continuing on the theme of Civil War in your next work?
Yeah, initially I had this enormous book that was over 300 pages. That, thank goodness, the publisher saw it and said, "Let's break this thing down into 3."
Oh, okay.
So, whereas the first book deals with the teenage civilians and what they had to do, second one are these vignettes and fast facts about kind of behind the scenes and quirky little things that happened or big things that happened during the Battle of Gettysburg. And then the third one that we've done a lot of work on so far. When I say we, my father, Gerald Christensen.
Okay.
And prior to that, we have Tom Rutherford, who was a civilian town guide. And, of course, all the paintings in the books, which are fantastic, are Dale Gallen.
Right.
And I have to mention Tom Rooney, who does all the watercolors in the first book. But anyways, the third book, which will again have Dale Gallen as the artist, that book will be about the actually strategic historical end of this. So it's strictly about the military history of the battle, what happened. And so where it's not a lot of the peripheral stories of teenage civilians or of just fast facts. This is the actual military strategies of what went on each day of the battle.
Okay, and I presume that volume will be geared to the listening audience would be adults.
It could be adults, although it's still going to maintain in the kids' book series. But once again, these books, even though they have the title of kids, and my son and his younger stepsister are the kind of the commentators, it's the way this battle works is it all really could be an introductory level for everybody. So this isn't going to be a departure from the kids' book series. This will be the third in that series. And what we do is try to break things down to its very basic introductory level, and keep it, say it's for kids, but it's also applicable for, like we said in the second one, for families as well. Like the third one, which will be the history or the strategic history of the battle, which will be, again, introductory level for anyone.
Yeah, so we have not seen the end of Greg Christensen,
right.
and his interest in the Civil War.
This is true.
So that is really good to hear. Good to hear. And I guess one question I'm going to present to you now is, what do you think motivates people to continue to want to come to Gettysburg and look at Gettysburg when they look at U.S. history?
That's a great question. They come for all reasons, which is a very generic answer. But I think a lot of it is like me. As an innkeeper, I saw so many people. If you asked, have you ever been here before? The majority of them have. And either they had family members that fought, or they saw Gettysburg for the first time, and then they just continued with it because they became captivated. Many people retire here. Many people come back because they feel it's a sacred place, and they actually have a feeling that this is somehow has an energy, which I can't disagree with. This area, so many people lost their lives. There was so much struggle and strife that there's an energy here, and people are attracted to that energy. Not to mention, obviously, the stories.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I can't believe that our time has come to an end, but my guest today has been Gregory Christensen, the author of Gettysburg, Fast Facts for Kids and Families.
Right.
Thank you for being our guest
and
today.
Don't forget, you can pick it up at Amazon.com.
That's right.
Just look up Gettysburg Kids Book or my name, it'll show up.
Very good.
Yeah.
For the Seminary Explorers, this is Nelson Strobert. Have a good day.
You have been listening to The Seminary Explorers, a production of United Lutheran Seminary with campuses in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We invite you to visit our website at unitedlutheranseminary.edu. All opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of United Lutheran Seminary or the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.